Remember your old friend long division? We're going to bring him back. There was a reason to learn long division, and it might not have been because of numbers. It is definitely because of polynomials. So let's recall long division. So the first number, 280, is divided by 13. And so will 2 divide by 13? No. How about 28? Yes. I can make two groups of 13. Two groups of 13 is 26. I draw a line. I subtract 2. I bring down my 0. I start again. 20 divided by 13 is 1. So that's 13. I draw a line. I subtract. Remainder 7. And maybe way back in the day you wrote remainder 7. Uh, we're not going to be doing that. Maybe a little later on in your development, you threw in a decimal point and a 0 and kept going. We're not going to do that either. What we're going to do is put our remainder over our divisor. So 7 over 13. So the answer to 280 divided by 13 is 21 and 7/13. Okay, so what if we have a trinomial, but it's not divided by a monomial? So I can't use the method we used yesterday of just putting each of these over our monomial. It's a binomial. My only answer is long division. So I have m squared minus 2m minus 24 divided by m minus 6. Alrighty. In order to do long division, we focus on the first term and force all the other terms to just fall in line. So m squared divided by m squared divided by m would just be m. Another way to say it is, what would I multiply m by to get m squared? I would multiply it by m. And then each of these is multiplied by m. So I get m times m squared, m times negative 6 minus 6m. Then, just like in a real long division problem, we draw a line and we subtract. Well, subtracting is kind of a dangerous thing. We're going to subtract this entire thing. So it is like adding the opposite. So these guys cancel out. That's what we hoped for. We have 4m, and then we bring down our negative 24, and we start all over. 4m divided by m, or another way of saying that, what would I multiply m by to get 4m? I would multiply it by a positive 4. Then each of these gets multiplied by 4. So 4 times m, 4m. 4 times negative 6, negative 24. I draw a line and subtract. But what does subtract mean? With polynomials, it means we add the opposite. So these cancel and these cancel. And in this case, we have no remainder. So this is our quotient, m plus 4. Slightly bigger problem. 12x to the third minus 10x squared plus 4x plus 18 divided by 6x plus 1, a binomial. Alrighty, so 12x to the third divided by 6x, or in other words, what would I multiply 6x by to get 12x to the third? I would multiply it by 2x squared. Each of these terms is going to get multiplied by 2x squared. So 2x squared times 6x is 12x to the third. 2x squared times 1 is positive 2x squared. I draw a line and subtract. What does subtract mean? It means add the opposite. These cancel. I now have negative 12x squared, and I'm going to bring down my plus 4x. Start again. Negative 12x squared divided by 6x, or what would I multiply 6x by to get negative 12x squared? I would multiply it by negative 2x. So negative 2x times 6x is negative 12x squared. Negative 2x times 1 is negative 2x. Draw a line and I subtract, which means I add the opposite. These cancel out. I now have 6x. Bring down my plus 18. What would I multiply 6x by to get 6x? I would multiply it by 1. Everybody gets multiplied by 1. So 6x plus 1. I draw a line and I subtract, which means I add the opposite. These cancel. I have a remainder of 17. So my remainder, 17, over my divisor, 6x plus 1. And usually we throw in a plus sign here to say and this, because plus signs say and. Okay, so there's my quotient with its remainder. Okay, I set this one up. The interesting thing about this one is there's a term missing. Like I have x squared and then a 5. So we're going to have to be very careful about who we line up with. We want to line up with our like terms. So what do I have to multiply x squared by to get 4x to the third? I would multiply it by 4x. 4x times x squared is 4x to the third. 4x times negative 5 is negative 20x. Negative 20x. Not x squared, just x. Draw a line and I subtract, which means I add the opposite. So these cancel. This guy doesn't have anyone to combine with, so he just falls down. 3x squared plus 22x. And then my legitimate bring down term would be a 7. What do I have to multiply x squared by to get negative 3x squared? I multiply it by negative 3. So I get negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. That's a like term with my 7. Draw a line. Subtract, which means add the opposite. These cancel. No like term for him. 22x. Negative 8. What would I multiply x squared by to get 22x? Nothing, because it's x squared. X squared is already too big to multiply anything to get x. So this whole thing is my remainder. So I have 22x minus 8 over x squared minus 5. And I usually throw a plus sign in. Here's my answer. Oh my word. Okay. What would I have to multiply 2x squared by to get 8x to the fourth? I would have to multiply it by 4x squared. So all three terms get multiplied by 4x squared. So I get 8x to the fourth plus 12x to the third minus 4x squared. Draw a line and subtract, which means I add the opposite. cancel. I have 4x to the third plus 8x squared, bring down minus 5x. What would I have to multiply 2x squared by to get 4x to the third? I would multiply it by 2x. Everybody gets multiplied by 2x. 4x to the third plus 2x times 3x, 6x squared. 2x times negative 1, negative 2x. Draw a line and subtract, which means I add the opposite. So I have 2x squared minus 3x, bring down plus 9. What would I multiply 2x squared by to get 2x squared? I would multiply it by 1. 1 times everything. 2x, 2x squared plus 3x minus 1. Draw a line, subtract, which means I add the opposite. These guys cancel. This makes negative 6x plus 10. What would I multiply 2x squared by to get negative 6x? Nothing. It's too big. It's too big. It's like your mama trying to wear your little jeans. Okay, so negative 6x plus 12 over 2x squared plus 3x minus 1 plus. Okay, we're going to spend 2 days on long division because I have a feeling for some of us it may be a new skill, and for all of us it will be a challenging skill.